What is up guys, Stu here. So earlier this week, Baby Driver was released in UK cinemas. I went and saw that on day one because it's fucking Baby Driver, so let's talk about that shit. So if you haven't heard about it, Baby Driver is the latest from Edgar Wright, who is a director you guys know I love. He is responsible for a lot of classic British comedies like Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, earlier than that Space, which is a TV series, and not a lot of people saw, but it's fucking fantastic. So if you haven't seen Space, go and watch Space, it's wicked, you'll love it. So yeah, it's safe to say I kind of just love Edgar Wright a lot. So I was very excited about his next project. As soon as that was announced, I was like, yeah, well, I'm gonna go see that. Very excited. Trailer came out, I was like, yeah, okay, this is gonna be fucking fantastic. I'm excited. And sure enough, the film is fucking fantastic. Oh shit. Yeah, it's good. So if you haven't heard about it or seen any of the trailers, in the simplest terms, Baby Driver is essentially about a getaway driver called Baby, and we follow him as he gets sucked into the world of crime, as he's driving people to and from heists under his kind of crime boss, Kevin Spacey, and he falls in love, and so that all gets jumbled up, and we basically see what happens with that. And leading the film, we have Ansel Elgort as the titular Baby Driver. I think he's a solid actor. I've never really seen a huge amount from him before. The most famous thing I've seen from him is Fault in Our Stars, which I thought he was good in, but not the most incredible film ever. But it's good to see him in a role like this. It's different to what I expect to see from Ansel Elgort, so I always enjoy performances like that, and he just seems to really be loving it and having a good time. He is a cool dude. He does sell that side of the character, which, if he didn't sell that, would have been a big problem, because he's got to be cool. He's going around driving like a badass in sunglasses, listening to his iPod. That's fucking cool. And if you can't pull off cool, you shouldn't be in a film, really. So he does do that, which is good. But the rest of the cast is pretty fucking stellar as well. I mean, it's got some good names in there. We've got people like Kevin Spacey, Jamie Foxx, John Hamm, Lily James is in there as well. Everyone is giving really fantastic performances. They're all clearly having fun across the board, which I always say is if I'm seeing a performer having fun, I'm more likely to have fun because of that. And my favourite in the film was probably John Hamm. I thought he was fucking fantastic. His character was really great as well. Every time he was on screen, I just enjoyed everything he had to say. So he's wicked. I also really enjoyed Kevin Spacey as well, despite the fact that he's not really doing anything new at all for Kevin Spacey. We've pretty much seen variations of some of the stuff he's doing in his character in pretty much every other film he's done. But it's Kevin Spacey, and he's fucking good at that, so let him do what he wants to do. No problems there. Love the man. So yeah, as a cast, everyone works really, really well together. I particularly enjoyed Ansel Elgort and Lily James's chemistry, because their romance is a key part of this film. So the chemistry and that sort of things has to click and has to work. And right from their first scene together, I was like, yeah, I'm on board. I enjoy watching these two together. I could watch a film of them talking just normally to each other and I'd probably be happy with it. But to use a cliche I love using, the real star of the show here is not the performances, it's the direction. Always feel cheesy saying that, so maybe I'll cut that out. Maybe I'll leave it in. Who knows? But yeah, Edgar Wright's direction genuinely exceeded expectations here. I knew what I was getting in for with an Edgar Wright film, but this is just something else here. He is fantastic. The guy just has a sense of rhythm to the way his films are edited and directed in camera that you just can't really find anywhere else, and it's very singular to his vision. And it just makes for such an incredibly exciting and fun experience in the cinema. I haven't seen anything quite like this in the cinema for a long time, and it is so much fun. Just the way in which everything works with the music is so interestingly realised and so expertly executed. My jaw was just on the floor. I don't know how they pulled off a lot of the stuff they pulled off in this film. Just things that are happening in shots are also wonderfully timed to the soundtrack that's playing. It feels like, and actually it has been confirmed in interviews, that the film was kind of filmed around the soundtrack. They started with the music and the rhythm, and then they built on top of that, which absolutely shows. I mean, there are sequences with particularly long shots, like nothing outrageously long, but shots which aren't cut how I'd expect them to be cut and are still in time with the music. So you just gotta understand how well choreographed everything has to be to pull something like that off. There's moments where I'll just be thinking about how they just pulled off the scene and just watch it. I'm like, I don't know how they did it, but it was awesome. And it's the same case with the car chases and the action in this film. Even like the gun shooting and the reloading, or the cars screeching and the doors shutting, it's all so interestingly woven into the soundtrack and the rhythm of the film as a whole that you just can't help but get swept up in it all. It's just a really interesting and fascinating way to go about doing car chases. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And on a technical level as well, the action is shot fantastically. I love the camera movements, which is one of the main things I love about all of Edgar Wright's films. But it works so well with car chases. It keeps them kinetic and fluid, which is exactly what you need from car chases. So yeah, you're watching Ansel Elgort just slide around the roads and the camera's just sort of sweeping around him. I'm like, yes, this is what I wanted from this film. Fuck yes. But outside of the action and the kind of big set pieces, I was really, really interested by the way that it started to delve into some of the characters and go into some of the more kind of human emotions of the film, particularly with our lead character, Baby, and his backstory and learning a little bit more about him. I thought that was executed really wonderfully and in a way which I didn't expect to see in a film. It kind of moved me a little bit. It was very moving in that way and in that typical Edgar Wright visual sense where even the more dramatic, character-driven moments are still excitingly directed with different camera movements, transitions, all that jazz. It just means that everything from the action to the comedy to the drama is infused with the Edgar Wright fluidity of his direction. It just makes it feel so incredibly singular and like you just couldn't get anything like this from any other director working today, which is the biggest positive I can give to this film. And that is just so refreshing to get from a lot of film nowadays. I mean, with like franchises and all these big expensive remakes, reboots, it is always nice to get a purely individual creation from a director. So in that sense, Baby Driver is just wonderful. But his writing as well is just as sharp as ever, just as witty. I loved the comedy in the film. I thought it worked really well. And I feel like there are jokes in the film which I didn't pick up on in the first viewing that I will pick up on the later viewings. And that is something which I just think is very rare in a lot of comedies nowadays. So seeing that, yes, big thumbs up from me. It's perhaps not the funniest of his films, but I think it's very different in its style of comedy than his previous films. Well, as different as it can be with an Edgar Wright style of comedy, but yeah, it's not quite as obviously laugh out loud taking a piss comedy as films like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. But it does still have an incredibly interesting style of comedy which just works and does just scream Edgar Wright. It is probably his best film in terms of what he's going for and what he attempts to do and what he actually ends up doing and executing so well. I'm just, compared to all of his previous films, this one, he went for it and he fucking nailed it and I am so impressed by it. But I don't think at this point I can say it's my favourite Edgar Wright film because Scott Pilgrim does hold a place in my heart. I love that film so much, as well as Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. But this could get up there and maybe surpass those. I don't know. With future rewatches, I could see myself genuinely thinking this is a classic. So it's that good. And we got to talk about the soundtrack as well because it's such an integral part of this film. It would be wrong not to talk about the soundtrack. And the soundtrack, it's so good. It's so good, guys. I know nowadays it's become quite a big thing to have a really good soundtrack that people can go and buy and be like, the soundtrack to that film was wicked. But rarely do we get a soundtrack that is so integral to the film and works so well in the world of the film as we do with Baby Driver. If you haven't seen it, it's quite hard to explain. Once you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But the soundtrack is just, it's like a part of the film in a weird sense. As I've already said, things in the universe will happen in time with the songs that are playing, and the music that is playing is at the same time being heard by the characters in the universe, so it has an interesting dichotomy of, you know, what's happening in the film, what are we hearing over the top of the film, bleeding into each other, merging. Always love that style of shit. But all the songs work really well as well. There's a good mixture of kind of prog rock classics and some more well-known stuff. There's some Queen in there, so I'm always up for Queen. The soundtrack, song to song, all amazing choices, and they work so well for the scenes that are in the film. And I guess a kind of bonus of having a soundtrack that is woven so interestingly into the film is that listening to the soundtrack, when I hear these songs now, all I can see is the sequences that they're in the film and just playing in my head. Every time a song of them comes on, I'm like, I need to get back in the cinema and see this film, don't I? So maybe that was his tactic all along. Put a really good soundtrack into his film so that every time we listen to the songs from the soundtrack now, we just have to go and watch Baby Driver again. It's just how it has to happen. There's no option other than to go watch Baby Driver again. Good tactic, Edgar Wright. You cheeky shit. But yeah, I'm just amazed at how Edgar Wright managed to pull off the film in the way that he did and how well he managed to infuse all the different parts of the film together, because I feel like if you took one of the parts of the film out, the whole thing would unravel. Like, you take the soundtrack out, you don't really have anything else in the film. You take the dialogue and the screenplay out, it doesn't really work with... Everything is there for a reason and works so well together with the other parts of the film. And that is when you know you've got a incredibly well-crafted film on your hands. You can clearly see everyone involved in it is very, very passionate about what they're doing. In particular, Edgar Wright clearly clearly has a big love for what he's doing, and it just screams through the film. I love it when I see a film like that. It makes me excited just talking about it. Sat in the cinema watching this film, you just can't help but get pumped and feel the energy coming from Edgar Wright as a director and all the performances. It's one of those films where everything comes together. Oh, I genuinely loved it. And the more and more I talk about it, the more I just keep thinking about how much I love it, and it just gets better in my head. And also, side note, I really enjoy the appreciation of sunglasses in this film. Weird note, but we don't see it a lot. Sunglasses are really great. And you look cool in sunglasses. But yeah, I could just gush about this film for a couple of hours, but you don't really want to be watching a 2-hour review of Baby Driver. So I'm not going to do that. I will say, however, though, that Baby Driver is the most fun I've had in the cinema for a long time. I just loved it so much. I cannot wait to see it again. And if you haven't seen it already and are umming and ahhing about whether to go, just go and see it. Do not miss this one in the cinema. You have to go and see it on the big screen. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give Baby Driver a 5 stars. I'm so happy that this one didn't disappoint. God, it's good. So good. But what about you guys? Have you seen Baby Driver? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know. How does it compare with Edgar Wright's previous films and all the others in the filmography? Do you like it more than films like Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, Scott Pilgrim, or are those way better than this in your opinion? Let me know what you thought in the comments below. I'd love to know. Yeah, links to my Twitter and my social media is all in the description below. Click on one of those links if you want, and then click follow if you want. You don't have to. Might be fun. And as usual, if you like this review and you want to see me talk about more shit, please go ahead and click subscribe. But until next time, stay beautiful, motherfuckers.